So I'll say good afternoon from here in the UK. Good morning to you, Professor Pete. We are here for the Wellness WOWday. I can't even get my words out now. Wellness WOWday, and you're here to tell me all about how fantastic your journey was. But for those who are tuning in and listening, the Wellness WOWday is the day that your health and well-being hit that brick wall moment, and you had to make changes that completely transformed your life for the better. So, Pete, how are you this morning?
I'm fantastic, Liz. Thank you for having me on the show.
Hey, you're welcome. You're my second guest. I've had Michael, and I've got a beautiful you. So I'm very chuffed to be speaking to you, amazing people. So, but this is all about you and your story, and obviously we want to share some value along the way. So the best thing is just, what is your Wellness Wow Day?
What is my Wellness Wow Day? My Wellness Wow Day is when I can come to the end of the day and I can think, you know what? I had a good day. I had a day that I made a positive difference. And what I typically do is at the end of my day, I usually have a gratitude exercise that I do right before I go to bed. And what I do is I ask my wife, what are you grateful for today? And, she kind of sums up whatever it was. And it's basically almost always small things. And that's what's so important. And then she asks me, I do the same recap. And the amazing thing is that it sets the right intent for going to bed. And, and it just really, it to me, that's what makes a wow day for me is to be able to say, yeah, it was a good day. I accomplished whatever it was that I listed, and I feel good about, the difference that I made.
Have you, I know I'm going to ask it, have you always done that practice? Or
No,
what made you to start? Where was the
no.
start point?
Ooh, for gratitude, it was after I lost my health because of my stress. So it was probably, I started this as a regular practice, probably 2 weeks after my serious bout, and it was because what I ended up doing is looking at different stress relief tools and techniques, and I found that gratitude was an amazing one, and it has turned out to be my favorite one because the whole mind shift that you can do when you are grateful for just the little things. I mean, we can all be grateful for, a big financial bonus or, our house or our car or other material objects. But when we start being grateful for the things that are not so obvious, like for me, I always start my gratitude exercise now with
Yeah.
I'm grateful for my health because all else is secondary. Because if you don't have your health, nothing else matters. And you know that. So it's,
What I
you
preach.
know, exactly. And so it's so important. And, when people ask me, they go, oh, well, I'll take care of my health, when I get to it or something like that. And I mentioned, I say, okay, think about the last time you were really sick, let's say with the flu. Did you feel like doing anything other than lying in bed? And they said, probably no, I just lied in bed. And I said, okay. So you have zero energy. You're lying in bed. What good are you to your business, to your career, to the people who are important to you in your life? You're not any good to them.
Yeah.
So taking care of your health is paramount.
I'm completely on board with that, as you know. That's my thing.
Hmm.
But of course, obviously, you said that gratitude was one of your healthy practices that you put into place
Hmm.
after your health was suffered. So for those guys who don't know about what happened, because you said I know your story,
Hmm.
I know how your stress obviously inflicted your health. Can you just share quickly for our listeners so they know exactly what that turning point that helped you build these habits was?
Sure. So basically, Stress and I, we've had a lifetime of experience together, really have. And it started off as a kid. I grew up in an extremely dysfunctional family. And what that taught me was to not pay attention to my stress.
Mm-hmm.
And so as an adult, I worked myself to the bone because that was the only way I could get out of that chaotic environment that I was experiencing as a kid. And what happened was the main thing where I started noticing it was in 2008. It was a perfect storm of stressful activities going on at that time. My dad was dying, and he needed all of his affairs to be taken care of. My mom had major surgery, and she didn't have proper insurance for her rehab, so she needed a lot of help. I was running my business, and all my employees needed my attention. My kids were small at that time, and they needed my attention. And my marriage was heading for a divorce. It was all just getting pounded on me, and my body was telling me this, giving me clear signals. Like my back locked up, and I couldn't stand or sit without major discomfort. My knees, I got bursitis in my knees. I mean, it was giving me all these signs. What did I do? I just kept on pushing, pushing, pushing. And then what happened was I started losing weight, and I lost 30 pounds in 30 days. And at first, my gosh, I thought this was fantastic because I wasn't dieting. I wasn't, I was eating my normal food, including some crap
Uh-huh.
food. And I wasn't doing any special exercise other than what I normally would do. And it just kept on coming off. And so after the 30th pound came off, I thought to myself, I better have this checked out. They ran the blood work, and oh, winner, winner, I am a stress-induced diabetic. And the crazy thing is that there's no diabetes in my family. Basically, there's one cousin that had it, but no direct diabetes at all in my family. And so, as a classic entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
instead of listening to my body about what stress was doing to it, I continued to burn the candle at both ends for another 10 years. And then what ended up happening was I ended up in the emergency room and a extended stay in ICU with what your listeners would, if you want to Google this, basically it's diabetic ketoacidosis. My body was eating itself alive because of my stress. And the absolute crazy thing about this, doctors told me that I was 1 hour from being comatose, and my blood sugars were so high that the medical grade glucometers could not measure it. They just said high. So the hospital laboratory had to do manual estimates, and they estimated that my numbers were 8 to 10 times higher than they were supposed to be, all because I was stressed out about my work. And then here's the part that really, when you're wired this way, 2 days into my ICU stay, I was working for a medical device company at that time. 2 days after I was admitted, my numbers had come down. I mean, they were still higher than they should be. They were in the high 180s. But, at least they were readable, and it weren't, critical. So I get a text from my boss at the time at about 6 a.m., and it says, you have a webinar you need to run at 8 o'clock. What are you going to do about it? Now, mind you, my boss knew I was in the
Mm-hmm.
ICU. And instead of thinking, give her the finger and say, you do it, I started with my phone because I didn't have my work laptop with me in the ICU. And I just started trying to, uh, reschedule this webinar, pushing the boundaries of my phone at that time. And the nurse on staff that was tending to me, they were checking my blood every hour. And she comes over and she checks my blood. And my numbers skyrocketed straight back up. And she says to me, just as a matter of factly, she says, you realize that's what put you in this hospital bed in the first place. And that was my epiphany moment. because I realized, people were telling me this. I knew that it was bad for my health, but a complete stranger just telling me this matter of factly. And I realized that I was trading my health for my career, and that's a really bad trade. And so I started. I really thought about this long and hard, and I got out of the hospital a couple days later, and decided, you know what, I need to focus on my health.
Yeah.
And so, I started experimenting with different, stress relief tools and techniques, including gratitude that we talked about earlier. And what I found was that by applying the tools that worked for me, my stress went down. My numbers as a diabetic went down, my weight went down, and my energy level went way, way up. And here's the crazy thing. If you look at a picture of me now and you look at a picture of me back in 2008 when I was first diagnosed with the stress-induced diabetes, I actually look younger. I have a little bit more gray hair, but otherwise I look younger than I did 14 years ago. That's what stress does to us. It's
Mm-hmm.
crazy.
What people think is stress is a mental health condition, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it affects the minds. But what you've highlighted there in very key points is the fact our body will give physical symptoms, and sort of we'll try and fix the physical, and actually it's the mental that needs the work.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, our physical, the early signs, bless you. The early signs that, we always have to look at, obviously pre-COVID and stuff. If you think about how, if you're getting frequent colds, that's obviously a one where we're only, instead of getting maybe one cold or a flu per winter season, you're getting it, consistently. That's an issue. The earliest one for most people is back and shoulder stiffness, and that's because, for those of us that sit at a desk for work, we tend to hunch down when we're stressed. We don't even realize it, but we are hunching down, and so that's a classic one. Either getting too much or too little sleep. Yep, exactly. That's a classic one. Digestive disorders where no amount of Pepto-Bismol takes care of it. Headaches where you're heading for your medicine cabinet, grabbing the Excedrin or aspirin every day instead of occasionally. And the weight fluctuations, either gaining or losing weight frequently, that are classic examples of, that your body is under some serious stress. But the mental part of that is so critical as well, because our mind controls our body. And, if we think about it from the mental standpoint, classic examples, early warning signs of too much stress is things like lack of concentration instead of being able to focus, or mood swings where you might go from happy to angry or sad at a moment's notice, or panic attacks of or having anxiety about something that might happen in the future. And then, for a lot of us who think that, oh, okay, I'm just going to cope with my prescription drugs or alcohol. Well, guess what? That is a classic example of you being mentally stressed as well, because you shouldn't have to tap into the chemicals to try and cope.
I mean, I did a live last week about quick fixes. So when you're looking at the medicines, that even alcohol, even sugary foods and treat foods and all this, it's the comfort and the patch. And as many do, if they start losing weight, it's like, oh, yay, I'm losing weight. This is great. I can keep doing this. I'm getting all the results I want. This is amazing. And it's that actually recognizing what is a warning sign, because any dramatic change in weight up or down very quick, like you lost 30 pounds in 30 days, that is, doable. But if you're not doing anything to lose that weight, you are doing something. There's something else going on.
Right.
And that's where we need to recognize.
Yep.
So, of course, obviously we've shared about the sort of physical, and you've obviously shared that key moment. Of course, we're going into these mental practices and things like this. What other practices have you put into place that are very helping you for your Wellness WOWday, so you don't backtrack and fall back into the old bad habits that got you to that hospital bed?
Oh, yeah. Well, one is obviously being aware, being very perceptive that, okay, my if I have a good way of figuring out if all of a sudden the pressure's starting to rise. And
Mhm,
so if it does, then what I typically do is I'll apply a technique or two that tends to ground me. And that's
mhm.
a really important thing for us, is to be able to ground ourselves and reset. And oh, you were going to ask a
Let's.
question?
No, I'm not asking a question. Let's just confirm the term in grounding for anyone that's listening that
Sure.
might not know that. You know.
Yeah, so basically grounding is where you're just at peace with yourself. So a lot of people say grounding is where, and it is an effective technique where you go barefoot on the grass or on the dirt or on the sand, something that is part of earth. That's a grounding exercise as well. But what it is it's connecting with yourself.
Mhm,
That is what's critical. And so one of the most effective things that I find is doing a simple visualization exercise,
mhm.
and which we can do at any point other than when we're driving a car. So anybody who's listening to this, if I'll take the listeners through this 1 minute exercise. But if you're listening to this right now, put it on pause and
And
pull
don't do
over.
any heavy machinery either. No
No
cars or
heavy,
heavy
no,
machinery.
no heavy machinery, no bicycle ride right now, whatever it is.
Stop.
Stop. Just either stand or have a seat, whatever it is, but don't move. How's that? And so basically, what you do is you close your eyes and you take a deep breath in, and I want you to go in your mind to a place you like to relax. Your happy place. Maybe it's the beach, maybe it's the park, maybe it's a lake, maybe it's your backyard, maybe it's the spa. Wherever it is, go there now in your mind and take in all of your senses. So, what do you feel? Do you feel the sun on your face? Maybe the sand or the grass under your feet? And what do you smell? Do you smell the fresh air? Maybe the lotion from the spa? And what do you hear? Do you hear the wind blowing through the trees? Maybe the water splashing on shore? And what do you see? Do you see the blue sky? Maybe the green of the trees or the grass? Whatever it is, take it all in, and then take another deep breath in. And open your eyes. How was that?
Well, as someone who's done it before, I love it. Every single time. I'm a little biased. What can I say?
Yeah, I love the visualization exercise because when we combine the fact that we're deep breathing, which, I say take another deep breath in or take one deep breath in, as you're going to your happy place, it's an automatic calming. And so we tend to slow down our breathing. So it automatically happens. But then also when we take in our senses as well, it becomes more real in our mind. And so it has a wonderful calming activity to it, and it's so easy to do. It really is. So if you're thinking about, um, that things are crazy going on around you and stuff like that, you can do this at your desk. You can I know people who have gone to the bathroom and done it in the bathroom stall. It's wherever it can work for you. A lot of people who work out of their car, a lot of
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
salespeople, it's a wonderful thing. As long as the car is parked, it's a great exercise to do.
It's easy.
It's very,
And
very, very easy.
And of course, the one thing about connecting with all senses, it connects feelings.
Yes.
Because the one
Hmm.
thing we can't miss out here is, obviously we talked about the physical, the mental. There's always a feeling attached to everything. So if
Yes.
you're physically feeling bad, like physically, like your
Hmm.
body is
Hmm.
hurting and stuff, your emotions take you down. And then, of
Hmm.
course, it's much harder. So if your emotions, that you can elevate those and just sort of feel good, then, of course, your mental state will lift.
Yes, and there's also, and I can give you a link for this, for anyone listening. To your point, a lot of times are when we have these negative feelings, it is because it's directed at a particular person.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a 7-minute meditation that I use that is enormously helpful in being able to kind of let that go. And that is really, really helpful. And so I use that. Let's say if I have an encounter with somebody who's rubbed me the wrong way, I'll do it either right after that encounter, or that will be a meditation exercise that I'll do at the end of the day. And it's interesting because when I do it at the end of the day, often not only will that person be someone that I need to rectify that with, but in my unconscious brings up some other people that I have something that I need to take care of as well. So it's quite
Yeah.
an interesting exercise, and it's a meditation that is recorded by someone that I did some training with, and it's a
Okay.
very, very powerful exercise.
That's awesome. So we've talked about the physical symptoms, the signs
Hmm.
taking place of your body. We've talked about gratitude. We've talked about, obviously, breath and meditation with visualization.
Hmm.
Obviously, journaling is always a big thing. How
Yeah.
much has journaling been in an impact? How have you used it? What's your favorite sort of way to bring journaling as a tool for managing your stress to help your wow day stay wow?
Yeah, it's interesting. If I have the time, so we just talked about this forgiveness exercise,
Mm,
this meditation that only takes 7 minutes. If that doesn't work, my second go-to for taking care of something like that is writing a letter to that person. And,
mm,
and when I mean writing, I'm talking about paper and pen,
mhm.
because I've tried this, with typing up a letter
Yeah.
on the computer, and yeah, it's helpful, but I don't know what it is about the sensory uh, feelings that we talk about with
Mm,
paper and pen, but my thoughts come out so much better when
mm,
I'm writing. And what I've done is I write this letter, and I just basically let whatever needs to come out. And then I fold it up. And let's say, it's if it's somebody who's passed away, obviously you can't give them that letter, so
mm,
you just have to do whatever you want. I know some people who like to flush it down the toilet or burn it. For me, I don't need to do either of those. I have a
mm,
shredder in my office. And I typically, if I'm going to write this letter, I have mailed a couple letters,
mm,
but not in ones that weren't attacking, but just how
mm,
it made me feel.
mm,
So, but most of them, the person never sees that. But sheer fact that I can get those emotions out on paper is amazing. And a few of them, in fact, the very first time that I did this exercise back, oh shoot, it was it was right after my dad died, as a matter of fact.
mm,
So it was late 2008. And what I ended up doing is writing this letter, and I put it in a book on my bookcase. And I forgot about it. And then lo and behold, I happened to open that book several months later, and I'm looking at this letter, and I read it again. And, it just was a wonderful snapshot of where I was at that point and how I was feeling so much better now. So it's, for anyone who wants to see your growth over time,
mm.
doing a journal in journaling in an actual journal is amazing work. But if you just need to take care of a feeling you have for a particular person, writing a letter to them, whether they see it or not, is very therapeutic.
I know someone who writes a letter to himself. Every New
Hmm.
Year's Eve, he writes his own letter to himself. And then New Year's, literally for the following New Year's Eve, he'll open last year's and then he'll write another one for the next year.
Oh, wow. So, you know what's interesting? Hearing some of these practices, going back to gratitude, I have a friend who has an enormously beautiful gratitude exercise. What she does is she writes down one thing that she's grateful for that happened during that day. And then she sticks it kind of like almost like it's a fortune cookie size. Um, and she drops it in a jar. And then on New Year's Day the next year, she goes through and looks at each of those things that she wrote. It's it's great. And whenever I hear these different ideas, like the gratitude letter once a year and stuff like that, whatever people do that works for them, that's the key, because it's so funny. I've come across a lot of people who say, "Oh, okay, the only thing that works is meditation, or the only thing that works is yoga, or something like that," and they're so pushy on that one particular activity. And the reality is, if you can find something that works for you, even if it takes 1 minute a day, run with it. Use it
Mm-hmm.
regularly on a daily basis, because if you do that, the compound benefits over time will be enormous. You just got to do it. And it doesn't take a lot of time.
It actually transformed my road rage, shall we say. So when
Ah.
somebody was being silly in a car, instead of going, "Oh my God, why are you doing that?" I could just go, "Thank you for showing me how much of a bad driver you are. I'm not absorbing your energy.
you know,
Thank you
it's.
for not indicating and cutting me up. Thank you for going out the way." And to be honest, I stay much calmer.
Mhm.
I run into less obstacles afterwards. And a lot of it is always personal perspective. But like
Mhm.
everything, we choose how we react to anything that goes on around
Absolutely.
us. It's our choice. So if something's going on, if something doesn't match with where you are, if you actually went loggerheads with them, you'd be screaming at each other because
Mhm.
they'll be coming in from six of one, half dozen another. And so I just sit in the car and I'm just going like this. I'm just going to be calm with you.
There, it's
I'm just
so.
going to be absolutely calm.
I think it's a fantastic activity. It's basically our perception is our projection. That's
Mm-hmm.
basically what it is. So how we perceive that incident, that situation, is how we're going to project that out to the universe. And so I do something similar. If I see somebody driving recklessly,
Yeah.
instead of thinking what an idiot, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm not exactly sure what the situation is with that person. Are they racing because they have to get to a loved one who's been in an accident or sick, is dying, whatever it happens to be? Is is there, is somebody going to have a baby or whatever, whatever it is? I don't know. I don't know. And the similar to it, in a restaurant now, if if I don't have good service by the person who's the server,
Mm-hmm.
before I used to say, okay, I'm just going to penalize by not giving a good tip and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Now I give the benefit of the doubt, unless the person has been offensive to me.
Mm-hmm.
I basically just think, okay, I don't know what's going on in his or her life right now and stuff, but hopefully it gets better. And it's amazing how this act of deflection, instead of letting that negativity fester inside of us, is so much better, because so many people, and I used to do this as well, let negativity fester and fester and fester, and it doesn't do us any good. It doesn't serve us. It's just eating us inside. And if we can just get rid of it or not take it on at all, it
Mm-hmm.
makes all the difference in the world. In fact, what I get asked a lot about, "Oh, okay, I can't get rid of all of my stress." And the reality is we shouldn't try and get rid of all of our stress, because some stress is good.
Mm-hmm.
The eustress, eustress, that's the kind of stress we have when we're working on something that we enjoy, we love, we're passionate about, and we need deadline. We need to get stuff done. That's eustress, and it has no negativity on us. But when we get to the point where we're dealing with negative stress, and in my experience, it is in two flavors.
Mhm.
So it's either ruminating about the past. Typically it's guilt, either
Yeah.
guilt about something we either did or didn't do, right? And you know what? It's in the past. We can't change it. We can learn from it. We have the positive
Mhm.
learnings from it, but we can't change it. So why keep on beating ourselves up about it? And then the other one, the other flavor, is anxiety about something that may or may not happen in the future. I mean, it's crazy how we can just turn ourselves into knots about, oh my gosh, it's going to be terrible, whatever that is. And the thing is, what people don't realize is that when you keep on sending this negative energy towards something in the future, you are more likely to manifest that negative energy, because that is what you're sending the energy out to the universe. And the universe doesn't know positive from negative energy. It just says, oh, okay, so you
That's what you want.
want, yeah, exactly. So a great example of this is if you're running late and you're stressing about signal lights, for example, guaranteed you're going to hit every light.
Yep, I can completely go with that one.
Yeah, it's because what you're doing is you're saying, "Oh, I can't get a red light. I can't get a red light." So the universe says, "Oh, you want a red light?" So
And
it
this is where
happens.
people think about it is because obviously with stress and everything, you just said, I can't get a red light. It's like how our brains work. We only remember part of the sentence. So we're only going to remember red light.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
universe is the same. So even if
Yep.
you go, I can't, it's the what energy you're putting into it. So Pete, as we close, we want to share some more powerful energy. If someone's listening and they're finding themselves exactly like you were, maybe getting some physical knots, feeling a bit stressed
Hmm.
or feeling a
Hmm.
bit of insomnia, or maybe their relationships are suffering because of the pressures they're under,
Hmm.
what sort of one big bit of advice would you give someone in that situation now?
Yeah. So what one would be, you know, listen to your body. That's critical, because your body is going to keep upping the ante if you're not taking care of it. And the last thing you want is to get a chronic disease that is because of your stress. I mean, I have to deal with diabetes now for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, so the first learning that I would tell people is, remember, don't trade your health for your career or any other responsibility, because once you don't have your health, it's going to be really problematic. The other thing that I would do, and it's a very powerful exercise, is if you're feeling like things are not aligned, one of the most powerful activities that you can do is to make sure you are clearly understanding and aware of your personal values as it relates to, let's say, your career, and make sure that whatever your, let's say, top 5 values are, you make sure that whenever you have an important decision that you have to make, that you run it by those top
Mm-hmm.
5 values. Because if you're not in alignment, if that decision is not in alignment with your top 5 values, you are guaranteed to add additional stress to your life, because you're not being true to yourself. And that's so often what happens to us. If we're not being true to ourselves, whether it's our career, relationships, family, our health, whatever it happens to be, it's not going to feel good, and we're just going to eat ourselves alive, because we're not being ourselves. We're not taking care of what's important to ourselves. So I have a 10-minute activity that people can do to get their top 5 values, and I'll make sure that there's a link for that as well.
Awesome. Well, guys, I've been talking to the fantastic Professor Pete Alexander. If you would like to reach out for more, he has got a fabulous book on Amazon. See, just below, right there. Okay. If not, when we do post this out, I will be sharing his social links so you can connect with him on his website, his LinkedIn. And of course, if you do want access to any of these other tools, he has got them in his blog post. But if not, just drop him a message. He is very, 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 very helpful. I can't get enough berries in there. But seriously, amazing soul. Professor Pete, thank you so much
Liz,
for being here, for being a man in the starlight, for being sharing a screen with me. I cannot express enough gratitude. Thank you so much.
well,
And
Liz, I'm grateful for being on your show. Thank you so much, and I'm also grateful for your listeners' time as well.
they're going to love it too. Otherwise, guys, have a great day. And until episode 3, we'll see you soon.